All right, let's get right into it. We're going to dive into one of the weirdest little mysteries on the internet. A question that starts with something as simple as a t-shirt logo and ends with, well, the very nature of reality itself.
Okay, so I want you to take a really good look at this logo. Search your memory. When you picture the tag on an old shirt, what do you see? I'm willing to bet that for a whole lot of you, you're picturing a cornucopia. You know, that horn-shaped basket of plenty, sitting right there behind all the fruit. You see it, don't you?
Well, if you remembered that cornucopia, you're definitely not alone. But you're also wrong. It was never, ever there. And that tiny little glitch in our shared memory is exactly what we're going to unpack. So how is that even possible? How can so many of us be so sure about something that just wasn't true? To figure that out, we have to separate what we think we know from the actual facts. Let's start with the real story of the logo that wasn't. So this brand goes way, way back to 1851. The whole name and the logo idea came from some paintings of fruit, to give it that vibe of quality and tradition. And sure, the design has changed a bit over the years, but the main parts have always been the same: apples, grapes, and currants. But here's the thing. If you search through the entire official history, every ad, every logo version, you'll find that one crucial thing is missing. That cornucopia you remember so clearly, it's nowhere. It was never part of the design. And look, this is so much bigger than just a logo on your underwear. That little moment of confusion you just felt, that wait, what feeling, that's a really well-documented thing. It's a strange shared glitch in our collective memory.
It's actually got a name: the Mandela effect. It's called that because thousands, maybe millions of people have this crystal clear memory of Nelson Mandela dying in prison back in the 1980s. But that's not what happened. He was released in 1990 and passed away in 2013. It's this absolutely bizarre situation where a huge crowd of people has the exact same wrong memory, and it happens a lot more than you'd think.
Let me give you a couple of quick examples you'll definitely know. Think about maybe the most famous line in movie history. We all quote it, right? Darth Vader says, "Luke, I am your father." But if you go back and watch the movie, that's not the line. Nope. He actually says, "No, I am your father."
Or how about this one from when we were kids? This one drives people nuts. So many of us remember reading books about the Berenstain Bears, spelled with an E. But if you go look at any of the actual books, it has always been Berenstain with an A. And this one is perfect because it shows how our brains just add details that seem like they should be there. We all picture the Monopoly man, Uncle Pennybags, as his classic rich old tycoon, so of course he has a monocle. It just fits, right? Except he never had one. It just feels like he should have, so our brain just kind of draws one in for us.
Okay, so what is going on here? Is this some kind of proof of parallel universes? Did someone mess with the timeline? Well, the psychological explanation is a little more down to earth, but honestly, it's no less fascinating. It's all about how our own brains can systematically lie to us.
And listen, this isn't just some quirky internet theory. It's a fundamental feature of how our memory is wired. In fact, a 2024 study that looked specifically at the visual Mandela effect found that a staggering 40% of the people they tested reported having a false memory. It is incredibly common.
See, the key thing to get is that our brains aren't video recorders. They're more like storytellers. They use a few key tricks to build a narrative that makes sense. First, there's confabulation. That's just your brain unconsciously inventing details to fill in gaps. Then you've got suggestibility. You hear people misquote "Luke, I am your father" enough times, and your brain just adopts it as the real thing. But the big one for our logo mystery is schema. Think of it as your brain's filing system of related ideas. You see a pile of fruit, your brain thinks abundance and harvest. And what's the most common symbol for that? A cornucopia. So your brain just helpfully adds one in to complete the picture. And over time, that false memory gets cemented as fact.
Okay, so our memories are faulty. Our brains fill in the blanks. That's a solid scientific explanation. But this is where we're going to take a sharp turn from psychology right into the deep end of philosophy.
As researchers have proven time and time again, our memory is fundamentally unreliable. It's not some secure vault with perfect records. It's more like a living document that's constantly being edited and we don't even get the memo.
And this leads to a really profound and honestly a kind of unsettling question. If the most personal thing we have, our own individual memory, is this flawed and this easily manipulated on a huge scale, then how can we be absolutely sure about the collective reality those memories are supposed to be based on? And that is the perfect entry point to talk about the work of philosopher Nick Bostrom, who took this whole idea of a constructed reality to its logical, totally mind-bending conclusion. He calls it the simulation trilemma.
Okay, so let's just put this right out on the table. Bostrom's argument isn't some fringe idea. It's a serious, philosophical argument that concludes there is a very real, statistically significant probability that our entire existence is a simulation running on some super advanced computer.
So here's how the logic works. Bostrom says that one of the three possibilities you see here must be true. First, the Great Filter. Basically, civilizations like ours almost always go extinct before they get advanced enough to run ancestor simulations. Second, disinterest. Maybe advanced civilizations just don't care. They could run these simulations, but they lose interest. But, and this is the big one, if those first two are false, if civilizations do survive and they do run these simulations, then that leaves only one conclusion. We are almost certainly living in one of them.
So, wow. The Mandela effect shows us our internal world is unreliable. The simulation argument suggests our external world might not be what it seems. What are we even supposed to do with all this uncertainty?
Well, the answer is actually pretty simple and kind of comforting. Even if this is all just a program, the rules of the program are incredibly consistent. Gravity still works, science still works. For all practical purposes, your best strategy is to just live your life as if it's real, using reason and evidence to make your way through it.
And that leaves us with one last thought. We started this journey with a logo and ended up questioning reality itself. It just goes to show that while we might never get all the answers, the simple act of questioning what we take for granted, from a cornucopia to the cosmos, is where real understanding begins. So, if you can't fully trust your own mind, what is left that you can be truly certain of?